Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a book that is, well, you could argue it's the fastest shortcut to understanding the philosophy of the 20th century.
I think that's fair to say.
We're talking about Albert Camus' The Stranger.
Or, as it's often known outside the U.S., l'étranger.
Right. Published back in 1942, this novel is just. It's short, it's unsettling, and it's absolutely unforgettable.
It's foundational. I mean, if you're curious about how we deal with a world that doesn't inherently care about us, this is the text.
So our mission today is to move past, the simple plot summary and really get at the core conflict here.
Exactly. The human search for meaning clashing head-on with the universe's total indifference, that's the bedrock of what we call absurdism.
And Camus, he doesn't waste any time easing you into it.
Not at all.
The very first sentence just throws you completely into the mindset of our main character, Meursault. Mother died today, or maybe yesterday, I don't know.
That line is a shockwave. It just cuts through the entire social script of grief.
It's not cruel exactly, but it's so honest.
He's brutally honest about an emotional vacancy, an indifference that society just cannot handle. It sets the whole stage for the absurd. Things happen, even huge things like death, but they don't come with guaranteed meaning.
Okay, so for this deep dive, we're going to unpack three things. First, the mechanical simplicity of Meursault's life and the crime that snaps him out of it.
Then we'll get into why his emotional detachment is judged so much more harshly by society than the actual murder.
Which is the most fascinating part, I think.
Yeah.
And finally, we'll look at the strange, almost lucid freedom he finds when he accepts what he calls the world's gentle indifference.
We'll see why our need for comfort forces us to demand that everyone follow a script, and what happens when someone like Meursault just tears that script up in public.
So let's start with the man himself, Meursault. He's a French-Algerian clerk living in Algiers.
And he's defined really by his emotional detachment. He's all about physical sensations.
Right. The first half of the book is like a study in emotional flatlining.
It is. His narration is so minimalist. He just reports facts. He doesn't interpret them. He doesn't judge them. He goes to his mother's funeral, and what does he focus on?
The heat.
The heat, the sun, the coffee he's drinking, the buzzing insects, how long he has to stand.
Anything but the emotional weight of his mother dying.
Exactly. And he just goes through the motions of life. He starts this relationship with Marie, befriends his neighbor, Raymond.
But even with Marie, when she asks if he loves her, he says he doesn't think so, but it doesn't really matter. He'd marry her if she wanted to. It's all the same to him.
His whole life reflects that one kind of terrible realization he has. People never change their lives. That's what's so terrible.
He just accepts it.
He accepts the monotony. He sees himself less as an agent of change and more as, a passive object just being pushed along. And this all sets the scene for the murder, where motivation completely falls apart.
The crime itself is brutal in its simplicity. After a conflict involving his friend Raymond, Meursault ends up alone on a beach.
And he sees Raymond's rival, the unnamed Arab man.
And he shoots him. But he doesn't stop. He waits and then fires 4 more shots into the body.
Then the way Camus frames this is just revolutionary. You expect a deep psychological motive, jealousy, anger, self-defense.
Something.
But Meursault replaces all that moral psychology with pure physical sensation. He describes the crime as a direct result of the relentless pressure of the environment.
He literally claims the sun was too much for me.
And that right there is the philosophical heart of the action. The heat, the glare, the sheer physical intensity, that becomes the real force. The sun is a symbol for the vast, overwhelming, indifferent universe.
So his reaction isn't rational?
Not at all. It's reactive. He's functioning like a body responding to unbearable heat and light, not like a moral agent making a choice.
It's so unsettling because it suggests that if the universe doesn't have a motive, why should our actions always need one?
And that's where the tension really begins. He's arrested, and the novel shifts to the trial.
Which is the real genius of the book, I think.
It's a searing critique of the very machinery society uses to create meaning. Meursault is put on trial, but not really for killing the man on the beach. That feels almost secondary.
He's put on trial for being Meursault.
Exactly.
So let's nail down the definition of the absurd again here in this context.
Okay. It's that fundamental conflict. Humans desperately search for order, for meaning, for justice.
And the universe just responds with silence, with chaos.
And Meursault is the living embodiment of that silence. His real crime is refusing to play along with the comforting stories we build to hide that silence.
The prosecution knows they can't win on just the facts of the murder.
So they don't try. They transform the trial into an inquisition of his soul.
They build this entire case against him based on his emotional history. They bring up the fact he smoked a cigarette, drank coffee, and didn't cry at his mother's vigil.
They point out that the very next day, he started a relationship with Marie and went to see a comedy.
And the prosecutor connects the coffee at the funeral to the murder weapon. He says, if this man has no feeling for the woman who gave him life, he's a moral monster.
Totally capable of premeditated murder. This is the definition of theatrical morality at work.
That phrase, theatrical morality, let's unpack that. What's the performance the society demands?
It demands a performance of morality because we are terrified of the void. We need reassurance that grief looks a certain way, that people believe in a divine order, and that crime springs from understandable motives, not random heat.
So if Meursault doesn't cry at his mother's funeral, he threatens the whole ritual.
The whole thing. He's not just a murderer, he's an atheist who doesn't grieve properly. He's the ultimate outlier. Think about modern life. We expect people to perform happiness on social media, perform resilience after a layoff.
Perform perfect, visible grief after a public tragedy.
Right. And Meursault refuses to lie. His simple, honest statement, "I didn't feel anything," is more disruptive than the murder. The murder can be filed away under evil. His indifference can't be filed anywhere comfortable.
But wait a minute. Doesn't society have a right to demand some empathy? We keep saying Meursault is authentic, but his indifference is, frankly, disturbing.
It is.
Is Camus really suggesting we should admire a character who is so morally neutral he can kill someone and feel nothing?
And that is the essential, difficult question the novel forces you to ask. It refuses to give you an easy hero or villain. Camus presents Meursault as authentic because he won't invent feelings he doesn't have, but he doesn't ask us to admire him.
He just asks us to look.
He forces us to confront the fact that total authenticity, when you strip away all social compassion and performance, can look terrifyingly inhuman.
So the novel never resolves that tension, does it? The tension between emotional truth and human connection.
No, it leaves it hanging. And you have to remember, this was written during World War II, a time when traditional morality had completely failed on a global scale.
That's a huge piece of context.
Camus is asking, if the grand narratives of God, empire, and law have led to this much destruction, shouldn't we start looking for truth in the individual, even if that individual is uncomfortable and indifferent?
Okay, so this societal pressure, it culminates in his condemnation. He's convicted, sentenced to death, and the final part of the book is his time in prison, which is where the philosophical payoff happens.
It's the crucible. He's stripped of everything, his routines, women, the sun, all the simple pleasures. He has nothing left but to confront his own mortality.
And the central event there is the visit from the chaplain.
Right. The chaplain tries to comfort him, urges him to find God, to repent, to find meaning in the afterlife. He's trying to force Meursault back into that societal script, even at the very end.
And Meursault just refuses.
Vehemently. This is his moment of revolt. It's the real turning point.
Yeah.
The chaplain insists he must believe, and Meursault just erupts. He grabs him, he screams at him until he's exhausted, and that outburst clears the air.
Leading to that monumental realization that finally brings him some kind of peace.
Yes. In that exhaustion, he finds clarity. He realizes the universe is utterly indifferent to his fate, just as he was indifferent to others. And in that recognition, he finally finds freedom. This is where he opens himself to the gentle indifference of the world.
Okay, let's stop there, because we need to clarify a crucial point for you, the listener. Accepting indifference sounds a lot like nihilism, the idea that nothing matters, so why bother?
And that is the key distinction. Nihilism says, nothing matters, so I despair. Camus's absurdism says, nothing matters inherently, but facing that truth is liberating. It's not despair, it's revolt.
Revolt. How is it revolt?
Revolt means you refuse to accept the comforting lie of some ultimate meaning. Since there is no God-given or cosmic blueprint for how to live, we are fundamentally free to create our own momentary human meaning.
So accepting the absurd is the first step toward freedom.
Toward lucid freedom. Meursault is finally awake. He says, nothing mattered, and I knew why. The knowing is the freedom.
It's the difference between being a slave to an illusion and an inhabitant of reality.
Exactly. Which brings us to that controversial final passage. Meursault hopes that on the day of his execution, a large crowd will greet him with cries of hatred.
Which sounds so bitter. Why would he want hatred?
Because hatred is the final, ultimate form of recognition without illusion. Pity, religion, grief, those are all cushions. They soften the reality of death. But hatred confirms his existence right up to the very end.
It's a raw, honest emotion.
A human connection, free of illusion, that acknowledges the reality of his life and his authentic, terrible choice. It aligns him, finally, with the indifferent universe and the shared natural endpoint of all people. It's his last act of revolt against the social order that demanded he lie.
The ultimate confirmation that he stood by his truth no matter what.
In that confrontation with death, the final, undeniable absurdity is what elevates this book from just a crime story to a cornerstone of modern thought.
So what does this all mean for you today? Our deep dive into The Stranger really gives us two profound takeaways. First, Camus exposes how ruthlessly society prioritizes performance over genuine truth.
And second, it teaches us that freedom isn't found in having all the answers, but in lucidly confronting the reality that there are no ultimate answers. True freedom is the result of accepting that absence of inherent meaning.
Ultimately, The Stranger doesn't teach you how to live a happy life. It asks whether you are brave enough to live a life without comforting lies.
Yeah.
It leaves us with that unsettling possibility that clarity about the world might actually cost us our sense of belonging, and that society might forgive cruelty far more easily than it forgives emotional honesty.
Which leaves you with a final thought to explore. If we fully accept that life lacks any imposed higher meaning, can that realization itself become the foundation for a truly meaningful and authentic life?
Subscribe to the Timeless Tales podcast. Your stories, your time.